Hello everyone. I'm gonna give you a second, but I'm just gonna be introducing very fast our amazing guest for today. Her name is Amira Shohdi, and she's just a role model. That's how I would describe her. There's many other ways to describe Amira. She is Egyptian. She was raised and studied in New Zealand. She lived for many years and worked in Qatar in a very cool organization. The kind of job that she had was the kind of job that your parents would be proud, right? She was also a startup founder. I see her that she joined, so I'm just gonna let her in. She's an entrepreneur. Anyway, I'm telling you, role model is a very small word for someone like her. Hi, Amira. Thank you
Hi.
so much for joining. I'm just hyping you up right now. No,
Yeah.
but honestly, yes, like there's so much, like the list goes on and on and on. But the reason that we invited her, you, Amira, today, is just because she inspires many of us, specifically people in our team. I know that Shahad for sure is going to be watching this. She's going to be super excited to be watching this. But she's just an inspirational role model to have as a woman, as an Egyptian, as a human. And that's these conversations, right? Like we love having people that inspire us in our day to day to be better, to live our true selves, to just be good humans. So thank you so much, Amira, for joining.
Thank
We're
you.
super happy to have you.
Same here. Same here. I'm so excited. What an intro.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm just hyping you up, but I want you to tell people about yourself because I told a little bit, but it's maybe not the true self that you want to share. So
Sure.
go ahead.
Sure. So basically, I was born here in Egypt in Alexandria actually, and then at a very young age, I think I was 6 or 5. My family and I moved to New Zealand, and at such an age, it is a big shift, but you're still not really aware of your surroundings. Everything always feels new, and that there was a lot of adaptation with the move. But as a 6 or 7 year old, there were minor things, smaller things, and as you grew older, there were a lot of cultural things that we were learning along the way, especially the language as well. I was an Arabic speaker and a French speaker, so English was a very new language for me. Anyways, a couple of years of being there, it felt like home. And then I came back to Egypt for a couple of years during middle school, went back to New Zealand during high school and college. But college years or university years are a bit mixed up because there was a lot of moving around for my family at that time. So I decided to study as an extramural student, which isn't really online learning. They would send me all of my material via mail, and I would either attend my exams back in New Zealand or in the nearest the British Council. So it was.
Amira, that sounds hectic. I'm already stressed listening to you. Imagine living this. Oh my God. And it's not like just saying like, oh, I'm going from Alexandria to Cairo, right? No, you're going from Egypt to New Zealand. Like,
Egypt, Zealand to Qatar, and I was at that point craving stability more than anything. I was at that point still recovering from the cultural shock that I'd faced when I came back from New Zealand to Egypt, because there were so many things that were so different, and a lot of things did not make sense. There were a lot of things that were contradicting what I've been told through what I was seeing. And then having to study abroad now, having to study whilst not attending university, especially for
yes.
someone like me who was very outgoing, was very hard because I couldn't imagine not waking up in the morning and meeting the professors or meeting the students. Yes, I met them all online via classes and emails, but to
That's not the
be
experience you should have. And I
not
think that many people can completely relate right now during COVID, right? Like that's a
correct,
situation. Like you're not fully learning, you're just
adapting again. It's
exactly, yeah, figuring it out.
correct. I'm receiving the material. I get it. I open a door. I get all of the material for that I'm studying for the year, and then I look and I read, and there are assignments, and then I reach out to the professors if I need anything, whatever. It's just not the same. And I would look around me and I see all these people attending university and making new friends, and I'm just I have to figure this one out on my own again. So it was so challenging, and it just made me feel like more of an outsider, which I have all
Yeah.
my life. Moving to New Zealand, we felt like outsiders. Coming back home, we didn't fit in. Going back, we were kind of stuck. Going to Qatar, it was weird. So, but it did shape a very different and unique character, but the journey is exhausting. So yeah.
Yeah, you touched a very interesting point, at least my perspective. You said that you had cultural shock in your own country,
Yes.
right? Like your own country being Egypt. Of course, you have many countries because you were raised here and there. But for me, that's insane. Like I am from Spain. I have lived abroad all my life, but
Yep.
thinking that I would have cultural shock coming back to my home country, that's
I
fast. Can
know.
you tell us more about that?
Yes. So because we moved at such a young age, I was still like, things were kind of still molding. I didn't have a perspective, a clear perspective on, what life is, what to expect, how to behave, especially according to the strict religious household that I was kind of brought up in. And so things were kind of easy for me to identify in New Zealand. Things there were pretty black and white. So there was complete freedom for me to be who I wanted to be outside the house. There was complete respect and understanding of that men and women are gender equal. That I understood. So that was an easy part for me to navigate the society and the culture. However, inside the house where we were told we can't really behave like this, we don't eat this, we don't drink that because we're Muslims, that also was easy for me to understand. The cultural shock came when I came back to Egypt, and I found that there were a lot of Muslims who were doing all these things that for years I've been told we don't do or shouldn't do.
Hmm.
The way that women also, or little girls, were being treated or being told specific things, like the way they dress, the way they should not date. At that time, Egypt has changed drastically, but at that time, things were very closed up. So if you're a 12-year-old or 13-year-old and you're dating, that was a huge taboo. That was, you would hear things like, this will affect your prospective marriages if you were to get married. This affects your reputation. And there was a lot of talk around reputation back then, and I had no concept that this existed and that this applied to girls of the ages of 12 and 13, and that every time I would stand and talk with someone, there'd be people standing there thinking that just because I'm standing and talking to them, that would mean I'm dating them. And so I was always harshly, especially from parents and the teachers, not even from people my age. And so that kind of scared me a lot. They scared my family. They were definitely much more protective than they needed to be. I missed out on a lot of things just because they always wanted me around them. I wasn't allowed to travel alone. I wasn't allowed to go to my friend's house if guys were there or whatever. So it was all very strict, and it became much more strict when I came back to Egypt because of all of these rules. So and then we went back to New Zealand, and I was like, oh, are you kidding me? I mean, when does
Was that a relief in your head, or was that a
No, because there were so many things that were just starting to get embedded that I thought, okay, now, all right, this makes sense. And I went,
now?
well, now I don't fit in here. Now now I can't go out with my Kiwi friends and do the things I want to do. I can't go to a pub with them and have a drink. I can't go and do this or wear that. And so I was stuck, and I didn't want to hang out with the people who looked and sounded like me, because they were just so excited. They didn't sound like me either. So there was a lot of that. And as I mentioned before, it did push me in a completely opposite direction, where I was feeling so judged, and I felt like I needed to act out in a sense where I'm like, well, you don't think I fit in, you don't think I'm a good Muslim girl, you don't think I know what this culture is like. So I did extreme things, like I got veiled, I changed my group of friends, I got engaged very early, I got married much earlier, because also that first marriage for me was pretty much an escape from all things, and a sense of me trying to prove everyone wrong, when really I was just fooling myself, because at the end of the day, nobody really cares, and nobody's really keeping up. And I don't think anyone knows how to navigate your own life more than you do. So the joke was on me. I was sitting there going,
exactly, yes. You're playing a character, right? A character that you thought you had to play, right?
yeah,
The
and
role that you thought you had to play.
correct. And by the time the mask fell off, I couldn't recognize who was under there, and that took a lot of time to work on. So it was very hard.
Yes, that sounds hard. I know that many people in the comments are like, I'm already stressed hearing this, but it was worth it. I mean, it was worth it. But I want to bring, I want to bring a point that, because I've been fangirling on your posts, and there's some quotes that I really love, and one that I think is very touching on that point. I wrote it down, so I'm going to read it. But basically you said, I have lost touch with people that I used to be. That touched me. That was like, because we live one life, and that's obvious. But the lives that we live in that one life,
Endless. I
right?
know.
And
I
you yourself
know.
explained 50 already.
Do you know, I look back on photos of myself.
Yeah.
There's a specific period of my life, there's 10 years where I just don't recognize who I was. There's some videos or some photos that really make me cry. I look and I go, oh, I feel so bad for her. Like, I wish she knew better. I wish I just, there was so much pain, and
Yeah.
people take that pain and confusion and put the world into a different way, and it's always self-destructive. So it was very painful. There, I did lose touch with a lot of people I used to be, um, and I'm happy I did, and I'm happy I've been through that.
That's the growth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah. That's such a powerful quote. I don't know, when I read it, like that was like, you know, that was very powerful to me. And like, and that's your poetic side, right? Like you're a very good writer. You shared with me that you let go of thoughts, right? You're very passionate through your writing, and that's how you found your passion at the end of the day, right? And you have blogs since you were young, like all of these things, which I think is such a amazing creative focus, being able to like let go with words, right? Where
Yeah.
did you learn? When did you start writing? Where did you learn
Oh,
this creative side of yourself?
I'm so happy you asked, because at the age of 6, which is when we moved to New Zealand, so many questions about so many things, and I was always going into debates with my dad about the things I was allowed to do and not allowed to do. And my dad, he's a writer. Oh, he's such a good
Okay.
writer. Anyways, so he starts telling me, anything you want to discuss with me, put it on paper. If you've had a bad day, put it on paper. And this was something that the school helped with. So if we went to a camp, we were asked to write a daily diary of how the day was either going to go or went. So at such an early age, if I wanted more allowance, or if I wanted to start going out without parental surveillance, I would need to write a formal letter to my dad asking him. Exactly, I swear, and he still has these letters asking him this and why I think I should, and if there's like a
I love
probation.
that.
And so that instilled the written communication, which is much stronger than the verbal communication, because my dad always felt that when you're verbally communicating something, especially in the heat of a moment, your body gestures and your face expression can give the negative or wrong signal. So if I'm arguing with someone, one face expression, one hand gesture can turn things pretty aggressive really quickly, even if the words that are coming out aren't. So this is where the love for writing came from. And as I grew, I just, every time I felt really sad, especially when you're sad, not necessarily when you're happy, but for me, when you're sad, when I'm struggling, I would just find that the words flew better on paper, and especially if it's
Mhm.
poetry. So yeah, so that's to answer your question.
No, I loved it. I loved it. Like I keep going through your pictures and just seeing the captions to see like the way that you write. And there was another quote that I wrote it because it was just like, this is touching me, you know, like I love it. And the other quote was, there was a verse in a poem and it says there's many things, but one of them is I have this fear of never trying.
Oh my God, yes. Oh, I wrote
I
that recently.
have this fear of never trying.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
is honestly the biggest regret of people when
Mm.
I was gonna say when they get old, but no, like of me right now, why didn't I try this, right? Like why?
Yeah, oh my God, yes. So, because there are so many paths that we sometimes take that's easy. Okay, they are hard. They're hard, but it's still not us trying. Trying is when you try it, you love and you're passionate at, and that's what scares the living hell out of most people. It scares the hell. So sometimes your subconscious puts you into positions where you're not still facing your own demons. You think you are. So if you're accepting, for example, the job I accepted it because I couldn't face the fact that I had so much more to offer. And I'm so scared of failure. And I'm so scared to try. I'm so scared of the outcome. This was somewhat of an identifiable outcome. I knew that this job, no matter how good I got it or how bad, I knew what the outcome was. But
Mhm.
if I wanted to be a TV news host, if or I wanted to be a fashion designer, if I wanted to be an actress, all these other outcomes, I couldn't really identify what it is I need to do, and I just didn't have the guts to pursue it. So that's where that came from. And that's what kind of pushed me recently to say, I need to stop everything that really no longer makes sense to me and face myself and ask myself, what is it that I really want? And I need to start trying. So yeah.
Love that. Love that. And that brings me to my next question, because like I'm sure that maybe all of the people watching here like know your journey and all of these things, that if I can just recap it very fast and you correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just paraphrasing here. But so you had a very successful job in Qatar for the past 7, 8 years, very successful, the kind of job that your parents are proud of. Like they not they push you, but like you think you have to accept because I made it here, even if it's maybe not aligned with what you really wanted.
Correct.
Um, then you were also a startup founder.
Yep.
Like you're very passionate about that. You're a great entrepreneur. Um, and then very recently, you just decided that's it. This is
Correct.
not who I am. Why?
Correct. Exactly. So that was the great thing about experience is, as expensive as it is, it's really worth it. So all of the things I've been through allowed me to be able to see the red flags early on in the things that I'm doing and pursuing now that made me go, hold on, I can't do this anymore. So for example, the job I had, the career I had, it took me a very long time in Qatar to be able to say I'm just not happy here for many reasons. But at the core of it was I'm just not doing what I love,
Hmm.
besides all the pains that I've suffered there in the workplace or not. And then I came back to Egypt and I was approached by someone who said, I have this great idea. I want you to be a founder or a co-founder with me. Let's do it. I love the idea. I love the person I was working with. But as soon as things started to grow and the team started growing, I realized this was no longer not just my thing, but it was no. Uh, I really had no control over the people I was working with, and the vision completely changed, and the people around me were not like me at all, and I kind of started hating going to the office. And I said, it's not going to take me another 12 years to figure out that I'm miserable. I'm sorry. I wish you all the best of luck. This may be the next Facebook or Instagram, but it's not mine. And it's not something I
Hmm.
can put my name to. It's not something I can work with
You're
anyone.
proud of.
So
Yeah.
exactly. I just, so I had to politely move away from it. And it, I just felt that I'm at I'm at a place, especially now I'm in my mid 30s. I felt like I was at a place where I really need to, if I'm going to start, I need to start today with what is it that I want? I mean, the question itself takes a long time to figure it out if you don't really know. So I have a couple of paths I still want to pursue. I still don't know which one, to be honest, I want. There's three different paths that I'm equally passionate about. So I said, I need to take a break. And that was very hard for me because I'm not someone who could sit around and do nothing. That there's a lot of pressure that comes from that. Even if I'm sitting watching TV, I have to be multitasking, or there's
Seven phones, seven different screens in front
a
of you.
phone, yeah, and there's a book that's open in case I want
Yeah.
to start. And then I said, what's wrong with taking a break? Even when Shah got in touch with me and said if that you guys are interested in doing this talk, and she said, so what do you do now? I swear to God, for a second I hesitated because there was a second of nothing. Right, I'm on a break. If you would have come a month earlier, I would have told you I'm a co-founder at the startup. But right now, it's not. And then I said, own it, Amira. You have earned this. It's been 13 years
Yes.
since you graduated. There's no shame in taking a break. You've been off for a month. Take it easy. And so I said, well, I'm doing nothing right now. I'm on a hiatus. I'm just figuring it out. And I mean, I was completely burnt out. I was just talking to a friend the past week. I'm burnt out. I have nothing to give, physically, emotionally, mentally. Everything, all my energy levels are zero, zero.
Hmm.
So I can't work out the way I used to. I can't write the way I used to. I can't listen to my friends or my spouse or my family. I have no energy for myself. Where am I going to get it for others? So I had to confront everyone and let them know, listen, this last month of Ramadan is when I'm here, and then there's another month off, travel or do something, and I don't want any expectations. I want you to leave me alone because that one month, one, I swear, my mom's like, well, how am I going to reach?
Leave me alone.
No, Mom, I'm sorry, I love you, but you cannot come with me. You can call me
Hmm.
if you need, but I need that break. I just need to wake up with
Yes.
silence. There's nothing waiting for me. There's nothing to be done. I just write. I want to be able to write and think, what is it that I want to do? Where do I see myself in 5 years? All these really basic questions I have absolutely no answers to. Kind of. So yeah.
No, no, I love that. You touched so many points there. First of all, the burnout part. I feel like I'm gonna say like everyone in this talk knows what burnout is, has
Yeah.
experienced it personally, no matter if they're a student, especially students in today's age, that they spend all day in the computer just
Correct.
learning online with no social interaction. In most cases, in Egypt, in some it's blended, but in a work life, we all get burnt out. Working in our
Yes.
startup is very hectic also. So, and the problem is that we take a break when it's too late,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
We never take a break randomly, right? That's what the soul needs. That's what we need, right? Just like, hey, I'm going to take Friday off to spend time with loved ones. Hey, I'm going to take Thursday off for spending time with myself, whatever it is. We never do that. We take time off, we burn out when we don't have one straw left. And that's so painful for ourselves. We cannot recover from that. That's something I learned, right? And they taught me very early on. That's something I'm so grateful that they taught me. So how are you? Yes.
I mean, there was a time when I was at work, when I was still in Qatar, where I felt a burnout. Now the thing is, like you said, when you're on a holiday, whether you're still working or not, a lot of the time you're still being burnt out. You're still doing things, still going out to places you do or want to, but you need to be there for friends or family. You're doing extracurricular activities because you have to, whatever. So I 3 years ago, I think I initiated a movement called "I Cannot Do It All." And this came at a burnout phase for me where I felt there was so much pressure on myself and a lot of other women around me to be and do everything and do everything on our own. So you have women who are juggling a job and their house and their kids on their own, and then they have to maintain their social life and their fitness. And these expectations, I don't see them being implied as much on men. A lot of men did get in touch with me and say, yeah, they are. But I don't know. The way I'm seeing things is there's a lot of more pressure on women to be and do certain things. So I think, especially in this part of the region, if a guy comes home after work and he says, listen, I'm dead tired, I really can't do much, there's no guilt tripping. Unlike when with a woman and there's kids, she comes home and she says, I can't do nothing. It's not really the same situation for her. A lot of people now, of course, have nannies. Those who can afford it, that's great. But a lot of people, even if they can't afford it and don't want them, don't have. There's still that power balance at home where, no, honestly, we are equal. So when people ask me, are you a feminist? I say, very, very honestly, a feminist or feminism is just about equality. And so equality inside the house, equality at work, is just being equal, carrying the load fairly equally. So yeah, I've burnt out many times, but this time I've decided to take it really seriously because it's taken a toll on me, especially mentally, psychologically. So yeah, so that's when I had to take it seriously.
No, I love it. And again, like I remember I read somewhere that men just have to show up, women have to prove their seat on the table, right? So it's not enough that a woman shows up. They always expect her to prove that you deserve being there.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think we see it a lot. We see it in everyday actions, in ourselves and in our people. And yes, in the second part of like how you just decided that's it. It's for my mental health. That's something that is not talked enough, I think, in the Middle East, in the region, just because it's a taboo, right? Mental health. Oh, let's not talk. Oh, no, I'm healthy. I'm whatever it is.
Yeah.
But in my head, like, why would we treat if I break my hand, if I whatever, I would go to a doctor, right? My hand is broken, I go to a doctor. But if I feel like my mind is not okay, I don't take care of that. How does that make sense, right?
Completely. I completely agree. I'm someone who suffered from depression for a while, and it kept coming and going. And I made a couple of videos about depression that were also kind of fruitful to me. I also felt like I healed when I talked about it, but there were a lot of people who were against me talking about such personal matters. There's this certain fear that if you talk about the things that are seen as weaknesses, which I think they're more vulnerabilities, not necessarily weaknesses, it's like putting your weaknesses or your faults for everyone out to see. Now, I don't have this issue. I don't think that I'm at a certain pedestal where I'm too good or too amazing to talk about my issues. I feel like if I had seen people that sounded like me at a younger age and who talked honestly about things like this, I would have been in a completely different state, at least mentally. I have a lot of people who reach out to me who are getting divorces, who are getting married and are unsure about it, people who have tried to commit suicide who've gotten in touch with me. And just being able to talk with them has put us both in much healthier places. So, to be honest, in Egypt, we do have a lot of people starting to speak out about these things. Here's my problem. There are people who sound genuine, but a lot of this sounds like a marketing stunt because
Huh,
this is what's hot right now. And this,
really?
yes, and I all the time. I understand that the intention may be good, but if it's like when a celebrity wants to come out and talk about themselves, but without giving you too much personal information, if you're just going to be generic, I might as well read this stuff in a book. I want to hear your experiences. I want to, but they want to give you that because they want to maintain that level of you don't know anything about me. Well, if I don't know anything, don't sit and talk to me about depression. I want to know what you went through. I want to know what you felt. So even till today, there are a lot of topics that I do want to come and up and speak about, but there's always people around me, very close to me, you've passed that point now. Don't let people know things about you. You're in a different place. I'm like, people know me
Yeah.
because of the things that I used to talk about that were personal, because of the things that mattered, because I was probably the first person in Egypt to maybe 6 or 7 years ago to start vlogging about marriage issues and divorces and cultural issues. There was no one talking before I did. And that paved the way for so many people to start talking about it, which was great. I mean, that ripple effect is exactly what we need. So if everyone sat and said, I don't want to talk or I don't want people to know my issues, we would be nowhere. We would never evolve. So,
See,
yeah.
the worst in this situation is thinking when you're going through depression, when you're going through something, divorce even, it's thinking that you're the only person in the world that is going through this. I don't know why that personally to me affects me much more than oh, I'm not the only one going through this, right? This person went through this and look at her now, right? And now she passed it, right? Because it can seem like the darkest point, and it is because it's the darkest point for you. But just knowing that there's a way out of it is
Yeah.
just so powerful.
Yeah. When you
Um,
see people who, it's just when you see people who live in the same circles as you, run in the same circles, who have the
yeah,
same social life, who might have even been in different groups, and you see them going through these things that you, like you said, you went through and you thought you were completely alone. It's different. It's different than seeing it being discussed on TV by people you can't really relate to. Uh, so there are people who are starting to talk about divorces and relationships and substance abuse, and there are things that are coming to light, and sexual harassment. These things are empowering millions of people. So you just, because you start going, oh, so it's not okay for me to go through this. Oh, so I should speak up. Oh, it's not okay. It's so empowering, especially for me when a woman does it and says it, because there are so many taboos about women speaking
yeah.
about so many things. So yeah, we have to keep getting.
We touched a trigger there. No, no, definitely. No, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm putting you on the spot here, but like, if anyone seeing this right now is feeling in that situation, right? They feel like they're stuck. They feel like they cannot take one more day. They feel like they're not happy anymore. They don't find joy in the things that they used to. What advice would you share with them?
I mean, I've consider your options carefully. Um, always, I think it's always the first thing to do is always have one person that you can trust and talk to without the fear of being judged or misunderstood. Uh, just to have that outlet, and then you have to kind of assess the things in your life that are making you miserable, and can you not move away from them. So if it's a job, can you or can you not live without this job? Because it is also a luxury to be able to
Yeah.
quit and not worry about an income or worry about. So that in itself is something that made me have to wait a couple of years to be able to make the decision. So, but if it's other things, if it's your eating habits, if for example you're a smoker, if it's a certain group of friends that are putting you down, if it's stress from family members that you just can't kind of control or put limits, you have to always have limits with your closest and dearest. Like, this is too much for me to handle. So you just have to sit and think where the issues are coming from and where they are. And realistically, there's so much responsibility on you to fix things. Nobody else can, and that's the truth. You can blame your family for what went wrong. You can blame your spouse for being a narcissist. You can blame your for
That sounds specific.
that. No, honestly, but but you can blame all these things. But
Yeah.
at some point, once you realize where the problem is, it's your it's your responsibility to fix it, and you have to be honest with yourself, and it does take a lot of work, but it is so worth it. So that's what I would definitely advise you do. Weigh your options and then start letting go of the things you can let go of, that will kind of help, you know, make that weight a little less so that you can move on.
Yeah, that's very powerful advice. I remember, I wish I had that advice like growing
Yeah.
up. I remember, I don't know, when I was early teens, right? I was in a very dark spot. I feel like everyone is in a dark spot when they're in their early teens, but I felt like it was the end of the world, right? Early teens, you know, you have hormones going on, your friends are
Oh
not
my
longer your
God.
friends. There's this whole situation that you don't understand how the world is working. And I
Right.
couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it
Yeah.
anymore. And I begged my parents, and that's my experience of like of privilege, that I begged my parents to study abroad,
Yeah.
send me wherever in the world, whatever is cheapest, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that clean start somewhere else, which I was very privileged to have, helped me so much in ending circles, right? I
Mhm.
realized that my friend group maybe was not the most empowering, right? And being able to start fresh, I realized that maybe it was my culture, the Spanish culture, that was like holding me back. And when I
Yeah.
moved to Canada, for example, which was the first place that I went, um, it was a different culture. And you're like, people don't do this like this. Oh, you're not meant to be doing, right? And that realization you only get when you either travel, study abroad, whatever it is, right? And as you said, it's a very hard process.
Yes.
Moving and starting over is not easy. It's not like, let's study abroad. Yay, amazing. It's a hard process, right? And we
Completely.
never sell these in education. Of course, we support students to study abroad, and we never sell it as in like, it's going to be, 100% every day amazing. No, because it's the experience of growth what we're
Correct.
actually helping you live, right? But that experience of growth is so valuable. It's traveling, study abroad, I don't care, like whatever it is, but like
I
getting out for
agree.
1 month, 1 year, to whatever it is,
I
right?
completely agree. Moving from your comfort zone, especially during time of study, can be a critical, you know, a point in your life that adds so much value and growth to your character. So if I
Yeah.
hadn't traveled, I would not be where I am today. And I don't mean physically or financially, I mean mentally.
Yeah.
I you would, because you notice it when you sit and talk with other people. When you travel, the more you travel, the more you meet different types of people you didn't even know existed,
Mm-hmm.
with different social backgrounds, the people from different social classes or whatever, and the people different experiences. So one time I was, for example, traveling to London, and I walked into a pub, and then I started talking with a guy who had worked on the set of Harry Potter, and I was like, dude, and he was showing me that. It's conversations like that, or you
Yeah.
or you sit with someone you don't know, and you hear like that they've written a book, or someone who, it's endless. The amount of people and stories I've heard just contribute so much to my, so when you come back home and you sit with someone who's never been anywhere, whether or not it's because he could or couldn't, but you sit and you see how narrow their vision of life is. You see
Mm-hmm.
the way they talk about certain things where you go, he just doesn't know. He just doesn't. He doesn't have that wide spectrum where he got to see everything and know who
It's
he
an
wanted to
unlocking. You literally
be.
unlock something in your brain.
Completely. Completely. That has been unlocked, and nobody here is going to do it for him. You have to go out and see the world. And so that's why when people ask me about education abroad or whatever, I always say, you could go for it. Just the aspect of being and doing something different, and just more variety. Definitely. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I loved we had a private conversation a few days ago, and I loved what you said that really touches this point of, okay, I don't know how to paraphrase it, but basically, when in your personal experience in Egypt, you thought that you had to be engineer, a doctor, whatever, right? And that's what parents usually push you to be, right? And when you went to New
Yes.
Zealand,
Yes.
you realized I can be a fashion designer, I can be a makeup artist, I can be a artist, I can be
Oh my,
a, excuse me, there's a world
yeah.
out there that I can do my passions, right? So I think it's something as simple as that.
Correct. I mean, so I'll tell you something. Before I decided to move to New Zealand or to study in New Zealand, I tried to give it a shot here in Egypt, because so I
Mhm.
wanted to major in literature. I got the media studies part first because I didn't know it was an option, and there was no university in Cairo at that time that my parents had approved of that I can come study in. And nobody would move here, so there was one university in Alexandria,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a local university. It was not a private one. So I remember my dad told me, you will face certain difficulties. It's not what you expect. It's not what you used to. And I said, I got this, Dad. I'm not a little girl. I can do this. I'm tough. Um, I went in, and yes, despite all the challenges I saw and experienced, my main issues were with the professors and their style of teaching. I remember I used to beg them for assignments. Yeah. First of
First
all,
time
I
I
used to
hear
beg
that.
them for assignments that they. Oh, Elsa, I asked them for assignments. They used to just attend classes, and then there's the mid-year exam and end-of-year exam. That's how it worked. There's no assignments, so you really don't know how you're being evaluated. You don't know how you're storing the information you're getting. So that was a huge, like, I remember one time I asked the professor, I said, can you give us one assignment before the end-of-year exam, just so I know where I lie? And she said, do you think I have time for this? I have a job at the University of Alexandria, at the Library Andrea, and I come here as a favor to the people who work here and want me to be here. I don't have time for this.
Wow.
And at that point, this is not the place for me. So that was
Yeah.
the first issue. The second issue is you don't get to choose your papers in the university I was in. You come in, these are the papers that you're going to study this year in order to move on to the next year. When I went to Macy University in New Zealand, and I told my dad, I have enough. These 2 years have been a waste of my time. He said, so you'll study in New Zealand? Finally, I said, yes. I went to New Zealand. I remember looking up the courses and the classes and the papers.
And you're excited.
And I was like, where do I even begin? And then I saw that you can do a double major. And I said, I can choose another major? And he's like, if you want to. I'm like, oh. I just hit the jackpot. There was, I had all this hunger for knowledge that I hadn't had in 2 years, and now I really want to learn. I want to graduate. I want to start working. So yeah,
I love that. No, that's honestly my experience when we joined the Creative Educately, right? I studied journalism. I've always wanted to be a journalist. I saw my parents being journalists and all these things. So it was just very in my mind. You know, you grow up, you see everyone doing this. I did it. Yep. And now I work at Educately, and we have, I don't know how many, we have 100,000 bachelor's, master's, PhDs around the world to choose from. And of course, like every day I have to like see the new programs, you know, what can we promote today? Like what will be perfect for a student? And I see some majors, Amira, I swear, I want to take 20 degrees. If you saw these majors.
Yeah, wow. I know. Just like the name of the papers, it's like.
Exactly.
Simple things like, I can't remember what art writing or a script writing, just a lot of things that I was like, well, I can study script writing, I can study travel writing, there's travel writing, there's writing. And as a writer, I was like, where do I begin? Wow.
Honestly, yes. So yes. That's 100% my feeling. And something that I really want to touch point also that we talked in private is that, and it touches also like this area, is that we don't realize what entails to work in an area, right? Me as a journalist, I thought like, oh, I'm going to be a journalist. I'm going to love being a journalist. I became a journalist. My first month, I was like, this is not what I wanted. This is 100%. I stayed 4 years journalism, and I was like, right? If there was a way that we realize what it is a job before taking it, before studying it, before.
I know. So that was my issue, because I studied something to try to escape something. So like I said to you before, I studied media and journalism because I love working in front of the camera and I love writing. And I felt like someday the two of them will combine eventually, and I'm going to do something I love. And I hate the word corporate and finance. Those two words, I cringe, and I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to be in or near this industry. I graduated from college. The first amazing job I got was at a financial PR firm. I said, okay, I still hear the word PR. Could be financial, but it's not really the same thing. I got in. It was still good. It was somewhat what I expected. There's a lot of admin work, but I said, that's fine. It was that second job, that whirlwind of a job, that I wish I knew anyone on the inside told me what I was getting myself into.
What was it?
It was like a prison dressed up as a castle. Dressed up as a castle. It was everything I didn't want. The salary was amazing. The title was great. the people I thought I was going to be working with, the ministries, the banks, the amount, because I was a client affairs manager. So the type of clients, when you have the Bank of China, ICBC, you have K&L Gates, you have Thomson Reuters. I'm like, oh, I mean, these are like career changing portfolios to handle. And I said, right. And I went in, and it took me 2-3 months, and I knew I made the biggest mistake of my life. Look, these things can be very cutthroat. It just, no one tells you what the working environment is like. So no matter how much you love a job, if you're surrounded by people who are trying to tear you down for whatever reason, you're going to hate it, right? And the opposite is true. If you don't really like the job, but you're surrounded by people who love you and who are working for the benefit of the organization and the work, and they support you, you're going to stay there for a very long time. So I was really good at what I did, even though I hated it, but I was just good at it. But most of the people that surrounded us, 90% of the organization, it was all politics. It was all very difficult. It's just a very difficult environment. I even made a video about it as soon as I resigned. It was called My Resignation in 2020. That video was brutal. And I know a lot of people who watched it didn't like it, but I mean,
that's not your problem. They can hate whatever they want.
Of course, I didn't name names or organizations, but when you have such traumatic experiences in your life, part of the healing process and part of the helping process is to state the obvious mistakes and the pitfalls that you fell in, and that the mistakes you did and that others did. So if there was a conflict of interest that needed to be addressed and no one discussed it, that was the issue. If there was racism or sexism in the workplace, that was an issue. I'll tell you something. When I moved to Egypt, I thought things couldn't really get worse. I bumped into 2 people who I had to kind of work with for a while. And I remember sitting with one of them, and he said, I'm a classist. And I said, what? He said, I'm a social classist. So I judge people based on their social classes. And I'd never heard, I mean, even in Qatar, you don't say things like this out loud. You might do it, but you don't say it. And I just sat there, and I said, so I laughed. I'm like, you're kidding. And he's like, no, I'm a classist. And I said, why are you telling us this? And everyone around us was okay with it. I even saw a girl who defended him. I said, why would you say that? And he said, and he didn't respond. She just kept defending him. She said, maybe this is a defense mechanism. It's better than pretending to be humble and being a fake about it. So it's just, I wish there was a way for people to honestly know the kind of work environments they would get themselves into before they got in. I know a lot of people won't talk about it. I'm not saying that you don't mention it, but if there's something really poisonous, I wish someone would come out and speak about it, because it's such a waste of time.
Definitely. And even before studying that, right? The most popular programs right now, especially when they're Egyptians, they always ask us for medicine, pharmacy, engineering, right? And IT, computer science, all of these things. And most times our CEO's favorite quote is that 78%, I'm making up the number a little, 78 or 82, I don't remember, percent of people around the world don't work in what they studied. Because they realize they studied something that they had to study because they thought that they had to graduate in this. And then they do the job and they're like,
correct.
No.
Correct.
So how amazing would it be that we educate people in this, right? In one way or another. Yes.
Someone who
it's a worldwide problem.
Yeah.
Talks
with you after you finish, or as you're finishing high school. You could prepare. Listen, what do you think your job entails? What do you want to do? And then they would kind of help you. Okay, so if you want to be doing this, if you want to be a photographer, if you want to be a director, if you want to be an interior designer, this is what you want to expect, and this is what you need to study, and these are the kind of jobs you should be looking for. There needs to be that mapping. Definitely.
Yeah. Honestly, that's what we try to do. Like when people, because we have free consultations, right? So if people come to us and DM us or sign up or whatever, they get a one-on-one free consultation with our team, and they're absolutely amazing. I'm sure that they're here, so I'm just gonna hype them up also because they're the best team. But anyways, like we get, most times it's just 18-year-olds about to graduate, lost. They are not happy with their lives right now. They want to change something. They think they know what they want to study, but after talking to them, we're like, you don't want to do engineering, you want to do photography, like you said, right? Like based on what you're saying. So we give them all the options of what they have they can browse themselves in the platform for free. You know, so I think it's a work in progress, but I'm so happy that I'm able to provide a little bit of a solution, right, with Educately, and that there's so much more that we can do as humans, just being open about the day-to-days of our
Open.
lives, I think.
That's
Yes.
the key word, Elsa. I think people are so worried about being open. That's the problem. If we could just get people to share more about their experiences. So, for example, usually when you leave an organization, there's an exit interview,
Yes.
which is something I didn't get because they knew exactly how I felt and they were not prepared to hear it. But
Yeah.
someone else left after I did, and they were sent the exit form interview, and they called me and they said, did they send you this? I'm like, hell no. But one of the questions was, what can we do to retain you? Or would you recommend this place for somebody else? And the answer is hell no. We would not. I mean,
never.
There are places where I worked before where I didn't really like it, but I would still recommend it to certain people. It was maybe the working hours or the type of work, but it wasn't the environment and the mentality of the management as a whole that reflected really poorly on you.
Cool. I'm gonna, you know, I could talk to you for hours, Amira, and I think everyone can hear you for hours, but I'm gonna wrap it up with one question.
Sure.
Okay. And we can have another conversation later. But one question. Let's say someone is, again, advice. Someone have just graduated. They think that they want to study something, right? If their parents are pressuring them to study something, but they are not too happy about that advice. What is your advice, or even your advice as to your 16-year-old self, right?
No.
I think that we all go through some problems.
No, really, if you're not feeling it, if you're not feeling that this is what you want to study, you have to sit and think about what you might be interested in, what you want to do after college. I know that sometimes these are really big questions to have answers to it.
So young.
I mean, I'm
so
like
young.
16, 17. I'm supposed to know what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I don't know.
Oh no. Exactly. So what I would suggest is, no matter how hard it is, having that talk with have a talk with your family and just let them know if it's something you don't want to do, don't. And then approach someone such as yourselves, Elsa, you and Educately, and talk to someone who understands, professionals that can help you navigate, you know, what it is you might be interested in. Oh, you might really be interested in medicine, or actually, no, you want to be an actress, or you have to talk with someone, open up those boxes that you've closed for so many years and think about what it is you want to do, talk to someone who will be able to help you, and then confront wherever the pressure is coming from to say, this is my future. I can't afford to waste 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years doing what you think might be best for me. So that definitely don't pursue something for the sake of someone else wanting it for you. That doesn't usually end well. That's all I can say.
Definitely. That's very good advice. And I want to remind, I didn't know this existed. I think it's more common in Egypt. But when I discovered this existed, I was like, no way. Maybe I'm just going to say it and everyone is like, oh, you didn't know this. So foundation years. I had no idea that foundation years existed. Basically is, for those that don't know, you can take a thing called foundation year, which is 1 year on one topic, medicine, computer science, all of these things. And they teach you everything. They show you the day in the life of every single aspect, right? And then after that, you can go into a bachelor's that meets that. If I had known this, we have someone in the team actually, I don't know what he does. He's in the tech team. He's one of the smart guys. But shout out, he studied abroad in Malaysia, and he went to, anyways, a bachelor that he did it. He hated it and did a foundation year and then found his passion through that foundation year. Sharing this in case this inspires someone, because I had no idea this existed. So, anyways.
But Anyways,
we can talk for 7 hours. Thank you, Amira. Thank you for sharing your experience so openly. I think that's the key word of the day: openly, vulnerably, passionately.
Yeah.
And I really hope that we can have another chat. We can discuss more topics. I'm sure that we're going to get many more messages after this conversation for, please, let's get Amira back. So thank you for your time.
Really, I love your platform. I love what you guys are about. I wish you guys existed when I was still in high school.
Yes. I know.
But it is there now. And kudos to you and the team. And shout out to as well. Thank you. And yeah, I hope you guys again soon. Thank you so much, Elsa.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, and
You
we'll
too.
keep talking.
Take
Bye
care.
bye. Bye everyone. Bye.